966.
We are very pleased to be welcoming Bill Foster to the 966 this week. Bill Foster leads the Jones Group Middle East, a wholly owned subsidiary of Jones Group International, which is based in Riyadh. He is chairman of the board of directors for the American Chamber of Commerce in Saudi Arabia, AmCham, where we are very excited to focus our conversation today. Bill, thank you so much for joining us on the 966.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here and talk about all the exciting things that are going on in Saudi Arabia.
Well, Bill, as we were just talking in the preliminary discussion, we've been excited to do this since we started the 966 just about a year ago. When I first went to Saudi and lived in Saudi Arabia in the 80s, so many of my friends were part of the American Business Group of Riyadh, which was actually established in 1978. I know you were, a key member there too. And our last guest, Prince Turki Al Faisal, who was well known, obviously, former ambassador to the UK and the US and head of the General Intelligence Director in Saudi Arabia for many years, a really well-regarded figure. When he talks about the relationship, he always talks about the primary importance of the people-to-people relationship. And for me, and I think Lucian, has always been, when I think of that, I think of the ABGR and now the AmChamKSA, which you are recently named president of. So again, really delighted that you're here. And as I said earlier, I just want to push start. And if you can talk a little bit about the evolution of the ABGR into AmChamKSA, why, and all the things you guys are doing now.
The American Business Group Riyadh, which served a very good purpose for representing American businesses within Riyadh, and where there have been some more traditional business relationships, defense and security as an example, oil and gas, finance, existed for a few decades. And I served on the ABGR board in late in its existence when I was with Booz Allen Hamilton in 2016 to 2018 timeframe. And then the ABGR was transformed over the last couple of years in the 2019 to 2021 timeframe from this group of business folks in Riyadh to a overarching organization that represents American businesses across Saudi Arabia. So now we have three chapters, Riyadh being very much similar focus as before, although with some expansion. We've added the Eastern Province, where there was an American business group previously, with a natural focus on oil and gas, minerals, the kind of things that go on in the Eastern Province. And then one that's really exciting is Jeddah, because there's a very mercantile focus. And, with Vision 2030 transforming virtually everything that is, and expanding the list of types of businesses that are in the kingdom, for instance, arts, culture, and entertainment. We've kind of jump-started the business advocacy for American businesses to match this rapid-paced Vision 2030, which the Crown Prince has mandated, and it's really exciting to be part of it. Currently, we have 11 committees, which is where a lot of the action happens. Each of them have corporate sponsors. And I'll just go through and read the names of the committees, because I think
that would be great.
Yeah, it's reflective of this broader role. Arts, culture, and entertainment. And by the way, the Arts, Culture, and Entertainment Committee just recently received a grant, sizable grant, to do some film work here in the kingdom. Defense and security, that's more back to our roots. But the Defense Committee is a very mature organization. And we just recently had a breakfast meeting, and my boss, General Jim Jones, attended. And I looked around, and all sorts of people I'm involved with professionally in Jones Group in the MOD transformation were there. So we're keeping up with that too. Next committee is energy. And then there's environmental, social, and corporate governance. That's a big one. And
Mm-hmm.
the fact that there are environmental concerns being considered by businesses. And I've been to a roundtable where we talked about things like renewable energy, recycling. It's just exciting to be part of this new way of thinking in Saudi Arabia through that particular committee. And healthcare, which in our previous discussion we talked about, is launching next month. What I think is important about that is that healthcare is obviously important for every nation in the world, and going forward, with aging populations and trying to figure out economical ways to deal with health and still provide even better care for everybody. It's going to require all sectors of healthcare to come together, and I think that's kind of reflected by really strong corporate advocacy for that committee. Johnson & Johnson, Pfizer, and Abbott are examples of the sponsors for the healthcare committee. Next committee is infrastructure. There's not a place in Saudi Arabia where there's not, maybe the empty quarter is not too much construction. But,
well, give it time, Bill.
Give it time.
I think that's next. But there's not a place in Saudi Arabia that's not undergoing a lot of construction, and it's modern construction. Things like smart buildings, consideration for water supplies, alternative energy, etc. And then next one is professional services. Again, something that's going to always be here in the department, represented by American businesses. Next one I think is kind of interesting, especially in view of the World Cup events. And I won't talk about yesterday's game with Mexico, but it's sports, and the fact that we have an active sports committee that's reflective of the kind of support that American businesses can give to this broadened interest in sports, and not just for men, but also for women here in the kingdom. Trade and industry. Okay, that sounds like an overarching one, but it's important for us to be able to interface, and I'll talk about it in a moment, with the other folks who influence how well businesses go, and that would be the U.S. government, the Saudi government, and with others partners, for instance, the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, U.S. Saudi Business Council, try to influence policy to advance the cause of business, U.S. businesses here in Saudi Arabia. Next committee is technology. There's a tremendous amount of technology advancement here on a scale, one could say, of when Silicon Valley came to be in the proximity to Stanford University. You start looking at, NEOM is being developed all around modern technology. There are very aggressive projects, submarine cable projects to bring better fiber optic technology to the kingdom, increased use of satellites, the use of artificial technology, artificial intelligence rather, and all sorts of things are that you see throughout the world right now in terms of technological advancement are moving at a faster pace here in the kingdom because of the mandates of Vision 2030. And finally, one that I think underscores my 7 years here in the kingdom as a resident, and that's women in business. We have grown that committee significantly in the last couple of years, and they're now very active. And what we're seeing is Saudi women emerging as business leaders in American companies here in the kingdom, which is really exciting. I have, in my Jones Group role, I have 14 Saudi employees, and they're all women. That says something. And there are increased roles for women within government. And that's not going to stop. That's just going to continue and could represent a big boost for those very aggressive goals of 2030, and I think well beyond that, in this incredible social change that's occurred in Saudi Arabia in that 7 years that I've lived here. So our committees and the in the AmCham are the where a lot of the events are centered, and a lot of the interface with our partners, if you will, whether it's the Saudi government or the U.S. government. We interface extensively with the U.S. commercial service and the commercial under the commercial counselor in the embassy, and we also align ourselves and remain aligned with the U.S. Chamber of Commerce and U.S. Saudi Business Council in any actions we take. We don't want to conflict. We want to stay on the same page. And because we've achieved this American chamber model across Saudi Arabia, we're now able to, and I see this as my vision for 2023, align ourselves with other American chamber organizations throughout the region for those common issues that we may have, and not be entirely focused in Saudi Arabia. So it's been a great couple of years under my predecessor, Tarek Solomon, who did, despite COVID-19, incredible work leading, along with the very capable staff and board of American Chamber, to achieve this pan-Saudi Arabia, if you will, business organization called American Chamber Saudi Arabia.
Bill, thank you. That's a tremendous overview, and it gives us an idea of AmChamKSA as it stands today. Any number of questions. Is it fair to say, so as you referenced, the ABGR was established in 1978, and it transitioned to the AmChamKSA in January 2021. Is it fair to say that the decision to evolve the ABGR and to move to an AmChamKSA was driven in part to be responsive to the changes as a result of Vision 2030?
Exactly. It was a time. It was time to bring the advocacy voice for U.S. businesses in Saudi Arabia together across the Arabian Peninsula, and we're doing well here in Riyadh. ABGR was a very well-established organization, but with what I just described, through all the various committees, we wouldn't be able to do without bringing in our partners from Eastern Province and Jeddah.
Well, exactly. And for many years, there was sort of, separate entities in the Eastern Province and Jeddah, and, from Riyadh, certainly collegial, but a friendly competition. But now you're all under one roof, which makes it that much more effective. And I'm really pleased. We're really pleased you went through each committee, because I agree with you. They're very important, and they're reflective of the new environment in Saudi Arabia. And if I can, I wanted to focus on a couple. And one of them, I don't want to shy away from the World Cup experience, because yes, as Americans, we're excited. We're through to 16. As Saudis, quite disappointed. But I think by any measure, it's been fascinating to watch the World Cup experience for Saudi Arabia. And I think if you were an observer, I think what comes through clearly that you perhaps you weren't aware of before was the deep and broad and quite vociferous football culture in Saudi Arabia. Is that something that came out during this World Cup, you as an American observer?
Well, it certainly did in a lot of the coverage I watched. It was funny because especially in the games, the game against Argentina, it was emphasized, and the draw against Poland, was that a lot of these players for Saudi Arabia are people that those of us who might even follow FIFA football wouldn't know unless we were following Saudi professional football, and that's I think that now we've learned, despite yesterday's outcome, that they have a formidable program here, and the kingdom should be really, really proud. But the sports industry here is clearly, linking its local existence, which has been in the background, I guess, for the rest of the world, to the international sports industry, and this what we saw in the World Cup in the last couple of weeks is reflective of that. But you also see some major acquisitions in sports by Saudi entities, and there are the more organizations. There's the Saudi Sports Federation that's been established, and that in itself, is a government entity that oversees sports. It shows how important this is to the new Saudi Arabia.
Let me talk a minute about, if you could talk a minute about that Trade and Industry Committee. And you mentioned that sort of is where there's an intersection between local, let's say, local reality and some of the politics you have to deal with. And it's always always a little bit of a surprise. When you look at it, we're sitting here in right outside of DC, Washington DC, and you see the blowback after the OPEC Plus decision in October to reduce their quota, and you see a lot of commentary about what should be done, this and that, with pull back on defense, somehow reduce our business relationship, and Lucian and I obviously are deep in the weeds on this, and we don't agree with this in terms of the larger relationship. So much of that, the anchor on the ground here is the business community.
Sure.
Are you able to sort of, when you see this brouhaha over in the U.S., the policy side, which very often, especially if you're not a practitioner, if you're not deeply involved with it, is disconnected from reality?
It is, and I won't comment too much on that. But the Trade and Industry Committee's focus is really a catch-all way to represent, support, and further the combined interests of American business communities within the industrial and trade sectors in Saudi Arabia, which are increasingly diverse, as I mentioned earlier, but in alignment and in support of the kingdom's strategic agenda and Vision 2030 objectives of a well-diversified economy, a solid and developed industrial footprint, and a strong export-oriented market. And we can't achieve that without having this overarching view of trade and industry. In other words, are we as American businesses relevant to today's Saudi Arabia? 5 years ago, defense industry would have been big, relevant to their interests, maybe not to their needs. The oil and gas, most certainly so. But now, we're talking about things like alternative energy, solar, hydrogen, et cetera. So this Trade and Industry Committee is important because that alignment needs to be there for U.S. businesses to continue to be relevant. Right now, it's led, by the way, by Tamar Masalam of PepsiCo. So, as an example, and PepsiCo clearly has a footprint here, in a very substantial one. But they too, as do all businesses, and I mentioned the mercantile base in Jeddah that comes to us as part of the Jeddah chapter. That all businesses need to continue to be relevant and maintain that alignment to Vision 2030. So it's an important function.
Well, this is something we talk about in the 960s all the time, and that is to update the U.S. relationship with Saudi Arabia, which AmChamKSA is a reflection of. it's updating it to recognize that it's a broader, deeper, more varied relationship than it has been traditionally. And you hear, Princess Rima bin Bandar, talk about this all the time, and others. So it's encouraging to us. I think Lucian will agree to know, and I think we knew this, that the U.S. business community in Saudi Arabia is at the vanguard of this and being responsive to the changes on the ground, and that and assessing where Saudi Arabia is headed, not necessarily where it's been. Let's talk about women in business, which I think is fascinating. You said at the Jones Group you have 14 Saudis and they're all women.
Yes, and they're not.
This is again, this is a common theme on the show. If I were a male in Saudi Arabia, I'd feel a little endangered.
Well, it's funny too, because looking at it, our Women in Business Committee, by the way, isn't just some sort of somebody's good idea that we'll entertain this newfangled social change. The committee is sponsored by ExxonMobil, Iloyat, PepsiCo, KPMG. I mean, we're not exactly it's not exactly an insubstantial thing. And it was, this mission is to advance women's leadership and career development in Saudi Arabia. And clearly, with a fairly mature infrastructure, which took a lot longer than hopefully it will in Saudi Arabia. It took a lot longer in the U.S. for women to achieve parity, and some would argue we're still working it in the business world in the U.S. So in Saudi Arabia, it's going at lightning speed because of Vision 2030 and the unique way that top-down things can happen here in the kingdom.
Right.
But still, if we align women's leadership and career development in Saudi Arabia based on Western benchmarks, in the case of American Chamber, U.S. benchmarks, and that's really providing a tremendous service to the kingdom in this tremendous point of their change. So it was launched in 2020, and the Women in Business Committee promotes the strategic importance of advancing and developing women in AmCham Saudi Arabia member businesses. And I would say I also want to use it as a draw for other businesses. My goal is to have as close to 100% of American businesses be involved in the American Chamber. And this certainly is an area where I think nobody can argue American businesses can come in and provide value add. We have programming that includes mentorship programming, structured relationship building program that connects people one-to-one to increase knowledge and share experiences to build skills for the future, goals and milestones. Stay tuned for more information on this. It's just going to get better.
So, Bill, I misspoke. I said I was going to focus only on three, but I'd like to take the opportunity, if I can, to talk about that defense and security committee, but sure, in a specific way. A colleague of yours who's now in the Jones Group shop, Colonel Brad Gandy, joined the 966 when he was, prior to joining the Jones Group, but he had served previously from 2019 to 2021 as chief of the United States Military Training Mission. Just a fascinating discussion that we had with Colonel Gandy about the defense transition that Saudi Arabia is trying to undertake, and part of the reasons it was fascinating, I think, is because not a lot of people are paying attention to it. And I guess just as a point, since we get to come back and talk with you when we're talking about the Defense and Security Committee, is that transition still underway? Is it making progress?
It's definitely is. I came here in 2015, working for Booz Allen Hamilton, and we submitted a proposal to do a military readiness assessment and won that work a couple months later. In the summer of 2015, and went and did a fairly comprehensive assessment of the Ministry of Defense, as did Boston Consulting Group, another American company, obviously, on the business functions within the MOD. And that MOD vision that was derived from that is alive today and is being implemented in a target operating model, which I'm not going to go into details on, but it really aligns the Saudi military with Western benchmarks. And but I will talk about the vision, because I think that's important when we consider Saudi Arabia as a strategic partner. And that's first to deter the threat and defend the kingdom. Second is to have interoperability within different ministries. You know, Saudi Arabia is a vast bureaucracy, previously quite siloed. Now they have the opportunity through this effort to eventually reach a whole of government state. Beyond that, have interoperability with regional partners. You know, they already do with the UAE to an extent and with the US, but it really needs to be a unified GCC, if you will. And then the third one, and this is the important one, because it's a game changer for everything they do, and that's to create efficiencies and employ world-class business practices within the kingdom. And I see that every day. They're dropping in stature from number 3 in the world in defense spending, when at a time when they were far from that in terms of capability, to a far more capable organization that operates jointly, acquires capabilities smartly, that is, and works a little bit more like a business. Not that the Pentagon is a business, but with efficiency, and hopefully applying some lessons learned, by the way, because no Western benchmark nation is perfect in this area. And the fact that they're able they've been able to effect some of the changes they've already effected, and over the next several years will probably be looked at as one of the leading militaries in the world, certainly a regional. And that's really quite an achievement. And it's emblematic of the whole Vision 2030 and how important it is to Saudi Arabia. And this part of it, of course, affects every American, whether they know it or not. And so if you look at the Defense and Security Committee, you know, sponsors are, you know, no surprise, my company, Jones Group Middle East, L3 Harris, and Leidos. And the mission is to promote closer association and cooperation among U.S. defense and security industries which are present in Saudi Arabia, which is kind of a understated mission given the incredible scale of what's going on. So, you know, United States is Saudi Arabia's second largest trading partner, and the defense sector plays a significant role in that a successful bilateral U.S.-Saudi Arabia trade relationship. And, you know, it's a deep-rooted history that has built strong economic ties. Saudi Arabia is the United States' largest foreign military sales customer, accounting for more than $125 billion in active FMS cases. And through FMS, the United States has supported security assistance organizations, not just beyond the Ministry of Defense, to include the National Guard, the Ministry of Interior, all of which are going to be transforming or are in the process of transforming. So this is going to be an ongoing effort that will make Saudi Arabia a stronger, even stronger partner here from a defense and security perspective here in the region. And will also be good for the American businesses involved. And, you know, you'll, of course, see the traditional OEMs do better, or at least do a better job of aligning with Saudi Arabia's goals, the way the transformation is being conducted. But we'll also see the Saudis go after what I think is one of the stronger features of American business. And those are the small, medium-sized businesses which bring innovation. And, most companies in America that provide innovative technology that is exportable, and that's an important part. There's no American business over here that's doing defense and security work is doing it without the knowledge of the U.S. government. They're doing it with export licensing. But none of them will, none of those small companies would want to do it on their own without some sort of assistance to enter a fairly dynamic business environment with a lot of change going on, rules changing on a day-to-day basis, just because there's transformation in every sector in Saudi Arabia. And that's requires an advocacy organization that can help translate what's going on in terms of the business environment into something that is achievable to enter.
Bill, that's a very good point, and it's, I think it's one I'd like to highlight. I mean, is AmChamKSA better set up now to help the small and medium-sized enterprises to get access into the market? Obviously, as you're alluding to, traditionally majors can get there, but tougher for SMEs.
I think we could be doing better on that. That's one of my goals over the next year, is to figure out how we can make it easier for businesses to enter the market and become AmCham members, and be able to reach out to other members and say, hey, I just was faced with this such and such a situation. How have you handled it? And to navigate this evolving regulatory landscape, as an example, here in Saudi Arabia. We're not going to be able to do it on our own. And this isn't just AmCham Saudi Arabia. I mentioned other entities. U.S. Chamber of Commerce plays a tremendous role in Washington, D.C., especially interfacing with the U.S. government. And they also provide a tremendous amount of policy assistance, if you will, or policy advice in their interface. The U.S. Saudi Business Council is a little bit more, in my view, they may differ with this, but I think they make coming here to do business a little easier in terms of onboarding, if you will. And those organizations have a very important role. We at AmCham are kind of the home team in Saudi Arabia. We're the foot soldiers on the ground. And our membership consists of people who, for the most part, live here, do business here. Many of us have been here a long time. And I want to continue to present a welcoming environment for businesses as they come to Saudi Arabia. I recently met with a company that is going to be making uniforms for the Saudis, and they're embracing the localization goals that are presented as part of Vision 2030. And they've set up partnerships with a couple of companies prospectively that have employed large numbers of Saudi women, I might add, that will be able to make fire-resistant uniforms that are much more similar to what our U.S. troops wear than what the Saudi troops have worn historically. So, that's an example of the kind of innovation that is necessary to be exported to Saudi Arabia by the United States, so the United States can continue to play a big role in Vision 2030. And it's not going to happen just by somebody flying in here and with a business visa or a tourist visa and shaking a few hands and saying, "Hey, can we set up a contract?" It's a lot harder, and it can be daunting.
We
Uh,
we work closely with the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. Think they do really good work, and also, on the U.S. Saudi Business Council, I agree. I think they do a nice job of, especially with organizing state delegations.
yeah.
And so they, in terms of bringing delegations over, I think they've had some success there, and it's important work. Bill, how large is the U.S. community in Saudi nowadays?
I don't have an answer to that. I'd say somewhere in the neighborhood of 80,000.
That's the number. That's the number you hear and read, and as it sounds as if, and we can carry to a close if you have any other thoughts. It sounds as if there's a new energy in terms of the business community, and is that accurate?
I think it is accurate, and it's accurate because the host nation has given us a platform, if you will, via Vision 2030 to expand the role of American innovation and entrepreneurship and all the other good things that come with American businesses to an increased number of sectors. The fact that you can go to the movies here and watch American movies in an AMC theater is tremendous. I recently was dining with a close friend who happens to be a major general in their Air Force. And I said, "Oh, have you seen Top Gun Maverick?" And he said, "Oh, my family and I have been to see Top Gun Maverick 3 times." Can you imagine? And when I went to see it, it was amazing. My wife and I were the only non-Saudis in the theater, and people were cheering, and clearly more excited than any movie crowd that I've seen in America. And I think that's emblematic of the energy that you see throughout the kingdom. And all you can do is take a step back once you're here and are able to see and comprehend what's going on and say, "Wow, there's some strong leadership." And this is fueled also by the fact that there are 70% or so of Saudis are 35 years of age or younger. They're digital natives. They're exposed either virtually or actually through foreign travel to other cultures. They also are very proud of their own culture. And I think we saw some of that in the World Cup this past week. Certainly if you looked at that crowd there, you'd say, "Yep, they're Saudis," and you can respect their devotion to family and the values that they historically have embraced. But what's really exciting about all this is that they're look, everything they do now is expanding into all these other sectors, and there's tremendous opportunity for American businesses. And on the other side, it's a great opportunity for the Saudis. So, the AmCham mission is one that one really can't say much other than good about. We just had a Deputy Assistant Secretary of Commerce for Travel and Tourism here. In fact, I spoke to him last night. We hosted he and the CEO of Marriott International for a breakfast yesterday morning. Marriott is, of course, expanding radically because of the advance of tourism, which we didn't talk about earlier. But quite practically, with all this other work going on, there are going to be plenty of Americans who need a roof over their head, and it's fascinating to see that sector increase. But it's doing Saudi Arabia a tremendous service as they, start to develop the various areas of tourism, like the Red Sea project, Jeddah, all the other mega projects, not to mention Neom. And so again, the possibilities are maybe not endless, but they're far expanded beyond what they were when I first served on the ABGR board several years ago.
Bill Foster leads the Riyadh-based Jones Group Middle East and is chairman of the board of directors for the American Chamber of Commerce in Saudi Arabia, AmCham. Bill, thank you so much for joining us today. This was a great discussion.
Well, thank you very much. And I want to circle back to you maybe at sometime in the next year or so and tell you how I think it's going. But,
well, you're
I'm
now
optimistic.
You're now part of our stable of prestigious and honored guests. So you're welcome anytime. Absolutely, we'd love to have you back.